Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a comparison between Glock OEM parts and aftermarket parts. And this is at the request of one of my viewers. I thought it was a great suggestion that he made for me to do a video on this subject. And I'm in a good position to be able to do a video and offer information because I have guns that have very high round counts on them. So over here I have a factory Glock 17, all original parts. This one has done 95,000 rounds. Okay, now this went 75,000 rounds before anything broke. Okay, all original parts, including the recoil spring. And I know people say you got to change the recoil spring every 10,000 rounds or whatever. You know what? I just kept going. At the time I didn't even know that. Okay, so this went 75,000 rounds, all original parts. And then what broke was the trigger spring broke. At the time, I didn't know anything about fixing this. I didn't know how to take the gun apart other than just taking the slide off, doing the basic takedown for cleaning. I did not know how to pull the parts out of the frame. So what I did is I put this in the original Glock box, and I sent this back to Glock to fix. Okay, which they fixed under warranty. Okay, and I thought, wow, this is awesome, man. I put 75,000 rounds on this gun, and they're gonna fix it for free. Which is, like I said, that was very cool. So I got the gun back. They gave me a whole list. They gave me a list of some things that they changed on the gun that I guess we're starting to show somewhere. And I have a video. If you search my channel name and Glock 75,000 rounds, I'm actually reading off the list of the parts that they changed. Okay, so the gun comes back. I start using it for training people, right? And it only went another 10,000 rounds before that same part, the trigger spring, broke again. Okay, so the first time it went 75,000 rounds, and then the next time after that, it only went another 10,000 rounds before that trigger spring broke. Now the second time, I had already started learning how to build these. So the second time, I was able to change that trigger spring myself. This was actually part of the motivation for me to start building those things. I'm like, okay, these things are gonna break. I better learn how to fix them. Okay, so I changed the trigger spring, and then I guess in the process of taking the trigger group out, I think I ended up breaking the spring on the slide catch, so I ended up changing the slide catch as well. So now this gun's up to 95,000 rounds. I stopped using this at the point that I got these guns working. I really prefer using those guns, mostly because of the optic. I'm able to put an optic on it, and people like shooting it. So it's a much better gun, I think, for training people with the optic. And also there's some comfort issues for me personally. I like those grips better than this one. That's personal choice. More than anything, these guns look really cool, right? They got cool colors. So people like being trained on these guns than these guns. Okay? So there it is. I've got a Glock here for you with 95,000 rounds. Broke the trigger spring twice, and broke the slide catch spring. Okay. Another one here. This is a Glock 22. This has about 2,000 rounds on it because it's a 40 cal. 40 cal is not as popular. Now this did most of those 2,000 rounds. It's probably closer to 3,000 rounds. So it did most of those rounds with the original slide. The only thing I've changed on this factory Glock here is the slide, because I needed to put an optic on here. Okay, so I put I put an aftermarket slide, but kept all the internal parts. Now let me take a step back and say that as far as people shooting this gun through the 95,000 rounds, I saw very few jams. Okay, there was jams, usually user error, where the user was not holding the gun tight enough. Because in order for these guns to work, the frame has to stay still while the slide is going back and forth. If you let the gun move around, it bleeds off energy, and the slide doesn't come back all the way. It either fails to eject or fails to feed. Okay, so despite the fact that I'm training mostly new shooters, like almost all new shooters on this gun, there was a relatively small number of people that couldn't get a grip tight enough, right? And couldn't stop jamming the gun. Okay, but for the most part, I saw very few jams with this gun. However, with the 40, okay, which now has more recoil, I have seen, you know, again, this is even before I put this aftermarket slide on it. This slide here is from Hoover Gunworks, but it's got the original barrel, original recoil spring, original internal parts. Everything's original. The only thing I changed, I did change the sights on this. I put night sights. But when this thing still had even the original slide on it, okay, what I did notice is that originally, first thing I noticed is, this is going back like 12 years now, some people, when they would shoot this, I would get light primer strikes, okay? I did not realize at the time why some people were getting light primer strikes. I did realize that later on as I started building these things and I started seeing them on a more frequent basis. But yeah, basically that goes back to people not holding the gun tight enough, because again, you got to hold the bottom, the frame tight so that the slide can run back and forth. And if you don't, that slide doesn't move the way it's supposed to. And you know, what will happen is it won't go completely into battery. It won't close. I mean, it'll close just enough so that the trigger will still, you know, that you'll still be able to pull the trigger, all right, and you'll drop the, you know, it'll close just enough so that you can release the firing pin, but there's still a little bit of a space there between the primer and the striker, so that it hits it lightly. Okay, so I did see some of that with this gun over here when it was, like, again, all factory, including the slide at the time. And then what I also noticed, I noticed some feeding problems. Now, for some reason, most of the 40s that the 40 ammunition that they make tends to be a flat nose rather than the round nose, right? Because the 9mm usually come to have a round nose, and I find that they feed a little bit better. With the flat noses, I noticed that when they were going in, sometimes the edge of the bullet, right, which was flat, would sometimes catch on the barrel, on the feed ramp, and it wouldn't feed. Okay, and again, that's where, you know, original barrel on this, and that's when I had even the original slide on this. Okay, but not a problem with the gun, a problem with the way people are holding it and the slide not going back all the way. So even with the factory gun, you will have problems if you're not shooting it good. You know, and again, that goes back to the training, right? You gotta know how to shoot the gun. You gotta know how to unjam the gun when it jams up, right? So we said 95,000 rounds here, 2,000 rounds here, and I did not have any within the 2,000 rounds. I haven't had any problems with the parts, right? Nothing's broken. Okay? So let's talk about now these aftermarkets. These are all aftermarket internals. I've got 3 of them. Okay, these 2 plus a third one I got somewhere else right now that have about 10,000 rounds on them. Okay, and within those 10,000 rounds across 3 guns, I have broken the firing pin head, I think, twice already. Let me bring it in front of the camera so you guys can see it. Give me focus. I was able to dig this one up. Right, give me focus. There it is. Oh, well, this camera's picky with the flow. There it is. All right, so you see the firing pin head? So I've broken 2 of these so far. Okay, now again, that's across 3 guns. That's across 30,000 rounds. You know, across 3 guns. Okay, and I've broken the trigger spring once, and I don't remember which one it was, but I did break the trigger spring once, and I also did have a problem with one of the connectors. I just completely changed out the lower parts group, but the problem I was having on one lower parts kit that I had is that it was working fine, and at some point that connector stopped moving in deep enough, probably got bent a little out of shape or whatever, lost its flex, and it wasn't resetting the sear properly. All right, so again, that was within 10,000 rounds. Right? And again, I don't remember on which particular gun it was. So across 30,000 rounds on 3 guns, I've got 2 broken firing pin heads, 1 broken trigger spring, and one bad connector, right, that bent out of shape. And I mean, I realized I could have bent it back, and I think I did at some point, okay, and it went a little bit longer, and then at some point I just chucked it. So based on that experience, I will tell you, I can tell you that the Glock OEM parts do seem to hold up better. Okay, uh, you know, in some cases, I mean, like I said, the first time I went out to 75,000 rounds. The second time, that trigger spring only took me another 10,000 rounds. So, you know, it's a little bit of luck here. You know, it's not an exact science because, hey, you know, why is it that that same part from Glock OEM the first time went 75,000 rounds and the second time only went another 10,000 rounds before breaking? I don't know. You know, I mean, but they, you know, that's luck of the draw. Okay. Now, another thing worth saying on this one over here, this is a Glock 43. When I built this, I got this with, I ordered a Glock OEM lower parts kit, which did give me problems. Okay, now, the problem with that is that I did not buy it directly from Glock. So perhaps I got a counterfeit. I don't know. And I don't remember where I bought it from. I don't remember the details. But I did have a problem with the lower parts kit on this that supposedly was Glock OEM, and maybe it wasn't, okay? Or maybe it had a problem, or maybe it wasn't, it just had a problem. So my gut feeling is that, you know, when you're buying Glock OEM, you can you can expect a certain standard. You can expect that you're less likely to have a problem, and that seems to be true. The ones here that are Glock OEM, they, you know, it seems like I've had less problems with these, right? Or I was able to get further in the round count before I had a problem, whereas the other ones that are aftermarket, you know, I had some problems sooner. And number one, the main thing, the important thing here is that you gotta understand that guns are machines. Machines break. Okay, sometimes they stop working because of either either due to user error, and it may not be so much even your own fault. You know, it might be that, you know, the gun. Let's say you're shooting, and you're shooting, let's say, in the bushes somewhere, and a tree branch catches this as, you know, or hits your slide as you're going back and forth, or you're doing some type of grappling, and you know, so the gun might stop working because of the way it's being used. Okay, so that's one issue. You gotta be able to, you gotta have the training to unjam the gun when that happens. But the other things are when the parts break, when the gun does break because the parts break, you gotta have access to parts, and you got to know how to change the gun. So that's really important, and that's the reason why when people ask me what guns I recommend, I always say AR-15s and Glocks. Okay, get 2 of each before you even start thinking about any other brand. And the reason is because the guns have proven reliability. You got, you know, and here's the important part: the patents have expired, so you have access to lots of parts, and you also have access and experience to you know, to fixing the gun. Right? If you don't know how to fix the gun yourself, you can find somebody that knows how to fix the gun. You know, you can do that with Glocks. I don't, you know, like, I know how to take apart and fix Glocks. I don't know how to do that with Berettas or Sigs. Okay, so that's why I think Glocks are great guns. Now, as far as getting OEM parts, here's the thing: if you can get them, get them. Okay. For the last 2 years, it's been very difficult to get OEM parts. Okay. So my thing is, I've got no problem buying aftermarket parts cheaper, and then when they break, I just fix them. I just change them, right? You know, so I've got basically boxes full of aftermarket parts. Now, would it have been better for me to buy OEM parts? Yes, they're not available. So, but here's the good thing, okay? At some point in the future, OEM parts are going to become available. Okay, so I'm just going to start swapping them out, okay, as they become available. Because see, what's going to happen is after August 2020, August 2022, right? As far as I understand, at this point, it seems like they're going to stop the sale of unserialized frames, and there's some debate going on there as to, you know, if that's going to happen or if it's not going to happen. But let's assume that Biden gets what he wants, and you can no longer buy these anymore. Okay. Well, if you can't, if that's true, and you cannot buy the frames anymore, okay, what's going to happen is, well, Glock is not going to stop making parts next year, the year after that, the year after that. So, as people in the future are not able to buy these, okay, there's going to be less people building, all right, And what that means is there's going to be more Glock OEM parts available. Okay, so that's why I say buy the frames now while you still can. Okay, build as much as you can. Build with aftermarket parts if that's what you have available to you. And in the future, and it might be a year from now or 5 years from now, at some point in the future, as the Glock OEM parts become available, as they become cheaper, buy them and then just swap them in. Okay, so those are my thoughts on that. That's probably what I'm gonna do. You know, as I see them, especially if I start seeing them at a good price, you know, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, I'll start buying Glock OEM parts and I'll start swapping them into the guns, or at least as the parts break, because I know what parts break, right? The firing pins break, the trigger springs break, um, well, and the connectors wear out. Okay, so those are the parts that need to be replaced. So in the future, as I need to replace those parts, if Glock OEM parts are available, I'll buy them and I'll just put them into the gun. And you know, because it doesn't make a difference if, let's say, the plastic shoe over here, right? You see the plastic trigger? It doesn't make a difference whether that's Glock OEM or not. I mean, if it works, it works. You know, so that's my mentality. So let me know what you guys think. Do you agree with me? Do you not agree with me? But my attitude is, you know, get whatever you can, build the guns now, and then later on, if better stuff becomes available, upgrade. Okay. Thanks for watching. If you're not a member of my channel, subscribe. On YouTube, I got 3 channels going. I got Absolute Guns, I got Pocono Shooting, and I got Safa, which is my original channel. It goes back to like 2006. Okay. And then on my uncensored platforms, on Rumble, I'm Pocono Guns, and then on Odyssey, HugeTube, and Gunstreamer, I'm Pocono Tactical. So make sure you're following me on more than just one platform in case I ever disappear in one. You know, due to censorship, you'll find me somewhere else. Talk to you all soon.